happened during the Bill Bush period. There's a steady driving towards nuclear agreement. It goes through a lot of ups and downs, don't have to go into that. But finally in 2005 the nuclear treaty is signed, that is civilian agreement is signed, which is the third period, and the fourth period is what we are into now. Now the way in which Americans have seen it is that uneasy about India. We don't know where it's going to go. Is it going to disintegrate? There was a lot of talk about disintegration of India in that period, VP Singh period and so on. That's one. Secondly, watch it. It's an important power. It seems to be getting its act together, but still too many coalition governments are coming and going. 7 coalition governments change in hand in 10 years. That is a lot of change, for anybody to see. After that, what happens? Nuclear weapons. So now we have to see India as a formidable military power and a very great promise rising economic power. That is beyond regional power. And the last phase is that India is accepted as a global power. But I want to define that. Not global power in the sense of United States, not global power in the sense of China, but global power in terms of as a global partner for United States in order to enhance its particular vision of international architecture. Okay? So these are the 4 phases of United States and India's relations that we see now. I'd like to really go to the question of specifics now, right? So okay. We all know what the situation with the United States. So what is it? What are the area of convergence and divergence between India and the United States? I would suggest to you that there are really, the change that has come about is that the areas of convergence are very large and the areas of convergence are very broad, and they spread horizontally between India and United States. But so are areas of divergence, because they are in 2 different parts of the world, facing 2 different kinds of threats and totally different agenda. United States is a power of a different qualitative order. India is a power of a very different qualitative order. Its assessment of its own threats and opportunities are going to be very different from the way in which United States sees itself. So there is already therefore a structural divergence between what United States would look for and what India would look for. So specifically, however, United States is looking for, it knows that it cannot go alone on a number of things. Why? Because it need not go alone. So it's looking for a reliable partner on number of issues and therefore to share the burden. This is also because there is a sense within the United States that either it is the rise of other powers, China particularly, which means that the United States cannot be that hegemonic power, that unilateral power that it had been in the immediate post-war period. And therefore it needs to really look at the world in a different way. So who are our allies? Who is going to be in our corner? How much can we depend on it? What do we depend on it for? Okay, these are the questions that the United States asks itself, and the kind of answers that come up are as follows. First, I would suggest to you that the issue is, of course, everybody mentions that, China. United States is seeking to hedge its bets by engaging India as a hedging its bets against China. I would not go so far as to say that it is looking at India as a counterpoint. It's not. India is not ready or willing to be a counterpoint. It doesn't want to be one. Even United States is divided on how it should approach China. There are those who argue that China is an ambitious, aggressive power. We really need to build against China in terms of conventional military power and watch out. There's a very strong lobby in Washington. I go all the time to the Council on Foreign Relations and I hear this all the time. I go to Washington and I hear this all the time. What the other lobby is saying, however, is what are you going to do? are you going to engage in a war with China? No. So the point is, what you have to engage in is in a constructive engagement. That is, in order to involve China in such a way, to such an extent, that it is not in China's interest itself to really challenge the United States. That is the nature of constructive engagement. Ask yourself, what does India want to do? Confront China? No. Does India have an issue with China? Yes. Where? Well, on the border. But in addition to that, also, China has been doing something called the string of pearls strategy. I don't know how many of you are aware of it, but essentially what it means is that China has been investing in Burma, Myanmar, has been investing very heavily in building infrastructure, giving economic assistance, involving in trade, okay, and via that security cooperation. Okay, so they're coming to it in from the economic point of view, not coming straight as saying, do you want to have an alliance with us? No, that's not what the Chinese are doing. So they have this kind of relationship with Myanmar. They have this relationship with, of course, Sri Lanka. They're building a port in Sri Lanka. They have this relationship, in much deeper relationship with Pakistan, where they are even willing to give Pakistan something similar to what the United States has given us as a civil nuclear deal. They are building the port of Gadar. Now, if you can visualize the map of India, you can see that it is the surrounding areas. So you have a kind of a surrounding, China surrounding India in terms of economic and strategic ties. They have deep relations with Central Asia, they are into Pakistan, they are into Myanmar, they are forging very strong relationship with Nepal, and Nepal is very, shall we say, ready to have a second alternative to India, because it doesn't like India, it resents India. Sri Lanka, the same thing, and then building the port at Gadar, and China has very important energy agreements with Iran. So what we are looking at is kind of a string of pearls strategy, is how it is, Pentagon calls it that, and India is very aware of it. What do we need to do? Break out of it. How do we break out of the string of pearls strategy? This is where US-India alliance is an important issue. Okay? So what I mean is, strategically how we see this is how we see this. Pakistan, now that is a very troubled relationship. Most of us read India Abroad all the time. I'm not saying India Abroad is kind of a be it all for correct news, but we are aware of the kind of, shall we say, ambivalent relationship, ambiguity in United States position. It is not willing to buy India's position on terrorism and its interpretation of what is terrorist act as far as Pakistan is concerned. So it acknowledges privately that Pakistan indulges in this all the time, but United States needs Pakistan very badly in Afghanistan in order to do what it needs to do in Afghanistan. So it's willing to sort of slide over those things and not make that an issue, and in fact stress the fact that India and Pakistan should get together and resolve the Kashmir problem as quickly as possible, so that there is no possibility of war. Because think about this, if there is a possibility of war, the United States has to choose sides. It doesn't want to choose sides, because it knows that the prize in South Asia is India, but it needs Pakistan right now to get out of Afghanistan. So between the short-term and the long-term objectives of the United States, we have a very peculiar kind of conundrum, which goes via Afghanistan into Pakistan. This is precisely why there has been so much controversy about India's role in Afghanistan. We have given $1 billion, and we are building all kinds of roads and infrastructure facilities and providing all kinds of NGO activities, that kind of thing, for many Afghan areas, particularly areas in the western, closer to Balochistan. Pakistan is extremely upset about that, and it has been pressuring United States to prevent India from playing this role. Second part, very important part. United States has been for a long time urging Pakistan, move your troops from facing India to Fatah area, which is where the insurgency is. You're all aware of the federally administered territories of Pakistan, or move to the areas of Northwest Frontier Province, which is where much of the Al-Qaeda and the Mujahideens have been quarreled, and they have been launching attacks on NATO forces, on United States from there. So what they're telling Pakistan is, move your troops there, that's where the real threat is. What are you doing? Pakistan is saying, have you looked at India? What the Indians are doing, they have a whole strategy which is known as the cold start strategy. That cold start strategy, I'll come to that in a moment. The cold start strategy prevents us from moving our troops from here to there. India has therefore at least officially abandoned the cold start strategy. I don't think they've abandoned it, but I don't think these things have to be made public, but they have officially abandoned it in order to facilitate conversations between United States and Pakistan, and between India and Pakistan. So that is the Pakistan part of it. I want to come to another thing. So then what is it that India is doing as far as the Indian perspective is concerned? I'm going to change a lot of the, let's go forward. I want to just focus on the strategic issues. Several things, and this may come to you more as a new information. Can we go to the security and defense area? I'm going to skip all that. Yes, let's leave it there. India has begun to acquire what is known as power projection capabilities. Power projection beyond South Asia. What is South Asia? Afghanistan, Sri Lanka, the immediate neighborhood. Okay? Beyond that, India conceives of its security in terms of 3 tiers. The immediate tier is South Asia. The second tier is called the proximate neighborhood. And then we have the extended neighborhood. Okay? What is the extended neighborhood? The extended neighborhood is, can you go further? There's a map. I want to go to the map. Yes. The extended neighborhood is from the Suez Canal all the way to beyond Philippines, Indonesia, Strait of Malacca. This is India's extended neighborhood. India's proximate neighborhood is Iran, Central Asia, and of course the Indian Ocean. Okay? India's extended neighborhood, that is going beyond, is African littoral, it is Middle East, it is especially Gulf oil-rich countries, and of course the trade routes that come through the Strait of Malacca. This is very important because if you look at the trade patterns, what is happening since in the last 10 years, with India's growing as an economic power, what has happened is that our trade relations with the immediate neighborhood has been reduced to 3%. That's it. We have only 3% trade relations with Pakistan, Sri Lanka, etc., etc. Middle East accounts for 22% and growing. Europe accounts for 22, and United States accounts for that. And this is the largest, fastest growing area, 122% per annum growth in our trade with Southeast Asia and the Middle East. So the extended neighborhood, it is what is important for us if we have to continue to grow. Second important thing is oil and gas. Okay? Now if India has to continue to grow at 9% per annum growth, it needs oil and gas. And that too is coming from all these volatile areas, Central Asia, Middle East, okay? Parts of Nigeria, Africa. It's coming from Southeast Asia. And so India is therefore, what it's trying to do is to develop naval capacity. There's enormous investment in naval capacity. India right now is what is known as a brown water navy. It wants to become a blue water navy. What a blue water navy is the ability to extend its influence into its extended neighborhood, which means that it must be able to control or at least be able to be influential in the